go from the greatest security threat that Canada has to a single meeting in New York to all of a sudden a complementary partnership and strategic partner. You know what I mean?
Wild.
It's just like
wild.
It's self. Does it sound? Were you lying then or you were lying now? You know what I mean? Like which one was it? Right? Like where are we? Right?
Lying then and now. So
let's see what was actually. So this is from the website here, from the Prime Minister of Canada's website, on what they're actually saying is going to happen. So to help deliver the full potential of these partnerships and build up our domestic manufacturing sector, Canada will allow up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles, EV, into the Canadian market with the most favored nation tariff rate of 6.1%. So let's just call it tariff-free for all intents and purposes, 6.1%. And it's expected within 3 years, this agreement will drive considerable new Chinese joint venture investments in Canada with trusted partners to protect and create new auto manufacturing careers for Canadian workers and ensure a robust build-out of Canadian EV supply chain. With the agreement, it is also anticipated that in 5 years, more than 50% of these vehicles will be affordable EVs with an import price of less than $35,000, creating a new lower cost option for Canadian consumers. Okay, 49,000 Chinese, low price Chinese EVs. Not super clear. Is this like the zero emission where, they're plug-in hybrid and, they have a capacity of say 80 kilometers. That's, details, right? But, will they be full EVs? I'm not sure when I read that. By March 1st, 2026, Canada expects that China will lower tariffs on Canadian canola seed to accommodate a combined rate of approximately 15%. China is a $4 billion canola seed market for Canadian producers, and this change represents a significant drop from the current combined tariff levels of 85%. And it goes on to talk about reduced tariffs on Canadian canola meal, lobsters, crabs, and peas. Okay, peas. As well as some energy exports that we have here. So, I think it's important for the context here. 49,000 EVs. I had to look up how many vehicles does Canada actually purchase every year? It's approximately 1.9 million vehicles. So when we talk about it from a percentage point, it might not be as big as some people think, where the vehicles that we're talking 49,000 on 1.9 million, it's less than 3%. So you're talking less than 3%. And so essentially we're going to let these EVs in, okay? And you're going to take the ban off of our canola oil, which was placed because China thinks that we were dumping our canola oil. So dumping means, basically government subsidized product being dumped into the Chinese market at lower than market rates, right? And I'm not sure that they were being disingenuous about that.
Right.
I'm not sure they didn't have a legitimate concern that was actually happening.
One thing I know about Chinese people is they can do math really well. And they probably saw right through that. So, if there's anything that I can, give to the Chinese people is math. They can do the math and they understand what's going on. So where are we at now?
Yeah. So, but it goes on to say what they expect this to happen. Together, these results will help unlock nearly $3 billion in export orders for Canadian workers and businesses as they realize the full potential massive Chinese market for $1.4 billion. Finally, to build on this momentum, Canada set an ambitious goal to increase exports by China by 50%. 50%. They're going to increase the exports to China by 50%.
Sounds like a lot.
That's a lot. So how much is it? So it's essentially, we're going to let in a small amount of EVs. It's not as big as maybe people are letting on that they're going to flood the market with Chinese EVs, but I think it has a more strategic benefit than maybe people understand, even though it's a small percentage. And they're essentially going to take the ban off of canola, and they're going to buy some of our oil. This is what's happening. Okay, 50%. Can we do 50%? So we start looking it up. Our largest trading partner is the United States at 77% of our exports. So we export approximately $764 billion. It reports the number here in Canadian dollars, but I'm going to talk in Canadian. So this reports in US dollars here, but I'm talking Canadian dollars. Okay. And we export 3.9% to China. So essentially, we export about $30 billion CAD to China. Okay, so if we're going to increase it by 50%, we have to export another $15 billion. Okay, so let's start. This is what we do here at as a fractional CFO. So let's put some math together. Because sometimes clients come in and say, I'm going to increase my revenue by 50%. Here's a plan. Can we do it? Okay, let's look behind it on what happens here. It's like, okay, how are we going to export it? We had the new pipeline. Okay, so the TMX was expanded in 2024. So this thing's fully online. There are no new pipelines under construction right now.
No,
okay,
none.
So it's currently operating at 85% capacity. Okay. And so it has the capacity for 890,000 barrels of oil per day. Okay. It all goes through the West Ridge Marine Terminal in Burnaby. Okay, so this is important to understand because it doesn't actually go through the Vancouver port. It goes through the port in Burnaby. So basically this port is primarily just dealing with the oil. Okay, so anything that doesn't get used here in Canada or doesn't get diverted down south, if it's going to go out on tidewaters and it's going to go east, it's going to go through the port in Burnaby. Okay, by all accounts, it's hard to estimate port capacity. Okay, but the estimates that I could pull is like this port is approximately 65% at capacity. So the port has some more capacity, but the pipeline itself doesn't. So that's probably going to be the limiting factor is the pipeline itself. Okay, so let's just say, that they do use that 15% capacity that's in excess. Okay, that would mean the remaining capacity, there's about 133,000 barrels of oil per day that's not flowing through that pipeline yet. And let's say up north in Alberta here, we can increase the production. There was another project I believe that just came online recently, or is going to come online recently for about 30,000 barrels. So but 100% capacity is
that's far-fetched.
It's pretty far-fetched, right? It's not to say that every other mechanism, but it's we're talking no shutdowns, no technical,
no repair, no maintenance, nothing.
That's right. But let's just roll with it. Okay, so that 15% will be 133,000 barrels of oil per day. That would be 49 million barrels of oil in a year. At today's prices, that's less than $4 billion. Okay, that's less than $4 billion. But remember, we got to get to 15. What are we sending? Canola and oil. Okay, so then I had to look up how much is all the canola we produce worth.
Okay, all right.
Basically, we would have to send them 100% of the canola to get to 15 billion. So if with the excess oil that we have, we could do the whole 4 billion, and we sent 100%. I guess we'd have a little bit left over. I think that what we produce in canola is worth about 12 billion. We'd have to send them 11, I guess.
Well, they'd refine it and send it back to us. So
who knows? Who knows? But like the chance to get to 15 billion, but it actually gets worse than that. It's like, because the canola, anything else we send them, that's going to have to go through the port in Vancouver, or that's going to have to go through the port, up north in Prince Rupert. And so I'm going to pull up, it's taking me a minute here, Trevor. I'm going to pull up something from the World Bank, and they actually rank ports around the world. And I want people to actually see it, because we actually look this up. And I encourage people to look these things up. Like, challenge these things. When governments say numbers, just put simple math. Ignore the billions and trillions. Just break it down into small numbers and say, does that seem reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the same government who told us it's going to be $40 billion deficit, and they just came up with $60 billion overnight with a one line item and called it contingent indigenous reserves and said nothing else about it, as if we're not supposed to ask any questions about the missing $20 billion. Okay, so this is the report from the World Bank Group, and they rank 405 ports around the world. Okay. And you can find this report online, and it ranks the individual reports. And we're going to look at the Vancouver port. And this is not just capacity. It's not just the amount. It's the cost. It's the efficiency. It's the reliability. Okay, they're ranking on a number of factors. 405 different ports around the world that they rank. The Vancouver port, the largest in Canada, ranks 389th out of 405. So all of this additional stuff that has to go, it's going to have to go through, the oil is going to go through the Burnaby port. Probably won't be the limiting factor. The limiting factor will be the pipelines to get it to that port. That'll be the limiting factor. Yeah. We're not going to build any new pipelines by 2030 because we haven't started any.
No, it's going to take a while.
That's right. They haven't even they're not even started. There's no shovels in the ground even. So nothing is coming online but before 2030. So everything else is going to have to go, non-oil, canola, which is what they're focused on. Maybe there's some other minerals or something that we can trade. Right?
I think coal is a big export of ours as well.
That's going to have to go through the Port of Vancouver. And we also have the Prince Rupert Port. I think I can find that one on here. And there's the Prince Rupert Port. A little better than the Vancouver port, but 362nd out of 405, right?
Wow, so top-notch, number one, super efficient. Imagine that those union-run, controlled ports are not operating at maximum efficiency.
So I can't tell you that this can't mathematically could happen. I can't tell you that we couldn't increase our exports to China by $15 billion by 2030. It's the same way as I can't tell you wouldn't win the lottery. Like, you could win the lottery. It is possible. It just seems a very low probability between the constraints that are our pipelines to get the oil to Tidewaters, between the actual amount of canola that China that we have and China could possibly need, and the inefficient shipping system. So we haven't, we export 77% of our exports is designed to go to the U.S. We've ignored these ports, okay? You look at other countries around the world that have actually increased their exports. They didn't just go and shake hands on trade deals. They actually increased the infrastructure first. So they actually build out the ports first.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. I'm like, this is something that should have started 20 years ago.
They build the ports. They build the pipelines. They invest in the companies that can actually export this sometimes, and then they have those companies actually go and sign real deals for real products, not hypothetical products that could happen, right? So I would say the likelihood that we're going to get $15 billion of extra exports to China by 2030 is very, very, very low.
Well, right? And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Look at the document there. So let's say we increase the capacity 3.9% they're doing now, increase that 50%. Okay, look at the United States, 77% currently right now. There's no way we're going to be able to overcome that with any trade deal with China or anybody else.
That's right. Even if it was, let's say it's something more realistic. Let's say it's, 5 billion or 10 billion or something like that we can increase trade with China. It's probably just a, best case scenario. It's just a wash with what we potentially lose on the U.S. side, right?
Yeah, going from 700 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, the math ain't mathin'. And, it seems like all the Western nations for the last decade or more have not invested in infrastructure. not invested in any advancing of that because, we have to make sure we're green and we're saving the planet. While other places in different jurisdictions can go ahead and really ramp up their production, ramp up their infrastructure, ramp up all of this, it almost seems like it's intentional hamstringing. But that's just me.
Yeah, and so while they're signing the deal, then to be antagonistic and say that this is the new world order, like that's just directly derived at Trump, as if Trump can't run these numbers and say, okay, great, like you found, you're going to sell another $5 billion of oil and canola to China, great, and you're going to let in some EVs. I actually think putting in those EVs is it's going to be problematic. And it's not because the number of vehicles is so high. I just think people are going to be shocked when they find out the quality of those vehicles for $35,000. I think they're going to be shocked at what can be built for $35,000 when it's built by a country who's invested very heavily in robotics and manufacturing. I think I've seen some of those videos for the luxury cars, and they're testing the suspension systems, and I think it's almost like a poison pill. Once people see them, their expectations are going to change. It's just the fact that they're getting a foothold, I think is, it's like they got the display in the mall, right? Ultimately, they're just trying to increase the demand and the desire for it because, less than 3% of your vehicles coming from China, it seems like a nothing burger. Once you realize that those vehicles are, they're a different breed, and you might see that. I think a lot of people are going to find out that the vehicles that we have for $35,000, if you can find any, aren't as good. Aren't as good, right?
Yeah, because you look at different videos online in these larger cities, like Beijing and other large cities, Hong Kong and whatnot, they're pretty advanced in their technology and, what they've done. I'm not by any means, praising the CCP, but at the same time, their technology is pretty dang good.
Yeah, we've been offshoring manufacturing for decades. So, why would we expect that our auto manufacturing is far superior when all of our other manufacturing is behind?
Yeah, you can't not invest in manufacturing and not invest in businesses to give them the ability to buy more plant, equipment, products, materials in order to expand their production and their manufacturing facilities, and yet think we're going to be any advanced of any technology than China and someone who's investing heavily in it. It's absurd.
Yeah,
absurd.
So ultimately, this deal is small. It's a bit of a shot across the bow at Trump, but I think structurally, people might think it's like, oh, China's going to be this large trading partner. It's like, no, the math, even the improbable math that they're giving is not very much. 15 billion, even if they do increase exports by China by $15 billion, which seems improbable if not impossible, it's not enough. It's not enough to really be a plan, although it's delivered as if it's a plan, right? And even if you add them all together, like the trade missions that they've done through the Philippines and Korea and Thailand, it's not enough, right? And even if they found the demand, we don't have the ability to ship out these products. We don't have the ability to ship out the oil. We don't have the ability to ship out the minerals. It's like we just don't have the ports to deliver it, right? And the honest thing would be to say is like, well, there's no way to actually fix that in my term here. You know what I mean? My term will expire before I can complete these investments, before we actually start working on a plan. The plan would be, it's not something you're going to do in 2 years or even 4 years. It's something that's going to take 10 years or more, right? And so then it becomes, what is the plan? How does this affect? It's like, well, I would suggest there is no new world order, people. Although it sounds great, it sounds nefarious, it's a good headline. It's like, do I believe there's a new world order? It's like, no, there's a new minor customer coming. Like it's a minor deal with a small customer in basically a one customer business. And what is the plan? The plan has it's been since 2007. The plan is to print more fake money and try to paper over the problems with more fake money. That's what it is. That's what is the plan, because there's no hope that the new trade partners, the deals that we're arranging here are, even if we didn't have the problem with the U.S. right now. Like, we needed these deals on top of the old deal with the U.S., right?
Yes.
And we needed more than that, right? But now with the difficulty in the trade deals in the U.S., like, you have to think that there's going to be, a tougher growth, at least, if not stagnation or a slight pullback. But I think we've talked in other podcasts too that, it's not like Trump and Carney and Xi make these deals. Private companies make these deals. Governments just create, they create the rules of the game where they make these deals. It's like, we're still going to, there's a lot of companies who still want Canadian oil. We talked previously about, Venezuela also won't be able to scale up their production too, right? And so, dials just slowly start to turn from these rule changes. It's not like light switches start flicking on and off. That's not how the supply chain works. It's not possible that way, right? But we can expect that growth between trade in Canada and the US will, it'll be harder to grow that trade. If not, it'll stagnate. And even worst case scenario, there's a minor pullback, which might seem minor, but in the scheme of things, a minor pullback is pretty big in the effect of the economy, right? And this very minor improvement on what the goal is in China is like, we don't have the ports or the pipelines to even make a big deal, even if there were more, right? And so the plan is to paper over the problems with fake paper money, right?